before the small business community was hit by this destruction and the mayhem that's going on around the country now, it was already suffering from other pre-existing conditions, late payments, red tape, power outages, and then, of course, the several harder lockdowns and various versions of it, including the ban on trading, on restaurants over the last few. So this is like catastrophic. The impact is going to be catastrophic. So at last count yesterday, last night in another meeting that I was having, it was estimated that as many as 400 malls were affected. We know that over and above the big retail chains that operate in those malls, you also have very small businesses trying to eke out a living from those malls. And the impact on small businesses is particularly severe because unlike big businesses have got insurance policies and they've got policies for these kinds of situations, public violence and attacks with the South African, with Sasria, for example. That's a luxury that a small, an SME owner cannot afford.
I'm glad that you touched on the issue of insurance. I actually was listening or reading some comments on social media where a lot of people were talking about how small businesses should have known that South Africa is a volatile country when it comes to protests, and therefore they should have had insurance. But it cannot always be easy, can it be? Can it? Especially when we are contending with a weak economy and also the pandemic itself. Sometimes maybe others may opt that insurance is not their priority at that time, but to keep the doors open are their priority. Would you agree with me?
I agree completely. I mean, let's take it at a personal level. At a personal level, when your finances come under severe strain, the first thing that you do is you look for those optional expenses you can cut. I mean, I don't mean to be mean to MultiChoice, but the first that goes is DSTV, for example. And the golf club membership is the second that goes. And you find yourself that you still have your car insurance. You cut back on the comprehensive insurance, and before you know it, you are only left with third-party insurance. And at some point, you even cut that. So that's exactly how the small business community as well operates. Like, you have a mall, you're already paying for security, so you expect the mall security to be sort of enough. Insurance is your last calculation. One of the things that we've learned from COVID has obviously been around the issue of loss of business income and loss of business earnings, and how the insurance industry has dealt with it. But now we are into another terrain. We never foresaw this coming. So it's caught us all napping.
So that tells me that as an institute, you are not entirely happy about the steps that perhaps government have taken. What are the immediate steps that you think a department like the Department of Small Business can do to help some businesses who do have a chance or two of at least rebuilding themselves? Because truth be told, some of them, this is the end for them.
Yeah, Liabo, our view is very simple, is that government's response has been very slow, fragmented, and totally inadequate where it has happened. I'm talking now from the law enforcement point of view, as well as the intelligence gathering. And I mean, we were told yesterday that the army is about to be deployed. We've seen the army moving, but we haven't seen the army making a difference. And I agree completely with those who are saying that the army is a temporary solution to stabilize the situation.
And lastly, before I let you go, what can we do as communities to try and help those businesses that have been affected to rebuild themselves? What are the active steps that community members can do, John?
It's not only the community. I think it's everyone who's in a leadership position, whether it's in the church, civil society, NGO communities, as well as politicians, and government, we all need to say no. We reject what is going on right now. Regardless of all the very good grievances, very reasonable demands that communities have, violence is not the way to go. There are many communities now, leaders who have reached out when the police have failed to negotiate, have reached out to the looters, to talk to the looters, to say this is completely unacceptable. We know your demands, we know your pain points, but this is not the way to go. This moment calls for leadership. Unfortunately, the call falls disproportionately on those who are elected officials, both the ruling party and government. Government needs to stabilize the situation and root out the criminal element.